Hey guys, welcome back to another video for Alex's Flying Club. And I am in Kenya for this flight, and I'm just observing as an AI aircraft, takes off in front of me. For some reason, air traffic control directed me to use this runway to get to the takeoff point, and the first time that I did this, I crashed into that aircraft. So I'm not sure what the correct procedure is for taxiing on a runway, but in my second attempt, I waited for him to take off. So we are in Nairobi, Kenya. And this is going to be an interesting flight because we're going to have 3 different legs, they're called, of the flight, and we're going to have 3 separate takeoffs and landings. And there's a whole little backstory to this flight for the DC-3 Virtual Airways World Rally. And I guess one of the members actually flew this route, and we're going to be dropping off the district commissioner and his aide at our first airport, and picking up some Kenya Game Park rangers. And then at our second airport, we're going to drop off rangers and their kit, and then head to Lamu, which is our final destination. So here is our DC-3, as always, in the World Rally colors, with Nairobi behind us. And I do have a bit of exciting news for me in terms of my virtual simulation happenings. I recently just joined the Virtual United Airlines, and I'll post a link to them below. And this is a virtual airline that flies a lot of the United Airlines routes and routes with United Airlines affiliates. And it's a pretty big group of individuals. It's about 550 members, and I like the organization, and I've already flown my first flight. I'm waiting for it to be confirmed, my first ever pilot report through the ACARS system. And once that's confirmed, I'll put up some footage of that flight, and if it's rejected, then I'll have to do another flight and put up footage of that. So here we've back to the DC-3. We've taken off, and yeah, and this flight was an interesting one. I'm getting more comfortable with this type of navigation without a GPS, and all 3 landings for this flight, I didn't have to do a second go around for the approach, which was a good thing. Yeah, and the first part of this flight was supposed to be IFR, and I was expecting air traffic control to direct me throughout the entire flight, like I have in North American airspace, but they just pretty much left me on my own. And I mean, it's pretty clear weather here, so it wasn't a big problem to find my way around, but I was more used to air traffic control helping me line up the approach. But I guess just this airspace is not used as frequently, and the airports that we're going to are so small that air traffic control is not necessarily going to direct us to correct approach heading. So this is what most of the countryside looked like during the flight. I guess it's kind of like grassland or a not so high forest. Not really sure what the terrain is. It's hard to tell from up here. But it was a pleasant flight. No rain. Light to medium winds, but at a constant speed and direction. And since I have been flying some of the jets and turboprops for United Airlines, getting ready for my career, my virtual career there, I've been kind of transitioning back and forth from that to the DC-3, and it's been a bit of a challenge. So here I'm showing the fuel levels, and what I realized is in the initial fuel settings there are 4 tanks, and I just kind of used the default setting and allowed the 4th tank to have 100% fuel and the other ones to have less. But I think that limited me, that 4th tank, even though it's labeled as center 2, I believe, in this aircraft, it limited me only to the right engine. So my left engine was going to be pretty starved for fuel at the end of the flight. So that's something I'll have to consider for next flight, is to make sure that all the fuel tanks have even percentages. Because I had to, on my beginning of my 3rd leg, I kept the same fuel amount, but I had to shift the fuel from one tank to another so that my left engine had enough for the journey. So as I was saying, I've been flying turboprops. I've been flying the Beechcraft 1900. Will be my first plane for Virtual United Airlines. It's a regional jet. Also a 2-engine plane, but it handles quite differently from the DC-3. I'll talk a little bit more about that in my next video. And here I'm coming up on the first runway, and the approach to it suggested that I should make a circuit to line up with the runway, which is what I'm doing now. I'm going to pass the runway and make a left turn, head in the opposite direction for 3 minutes, and then make a couple turns to line up with the runway. And this airport is Garissa Airport, with ID designation HKGA. Should probably use the phonetic alphabet for aviation to when I say these airport names, but to tell you the truth, I'm still kind of learning it and getting used to it. But I'll have my cheat sheet here, so try to use that from now on. So that this airport would be Hotel Kilo Golf Alpha. These first couple landings are going to be pretty bad. I'm not sure why my landings have kind of regressed within the DC-3. It might be because I'm flying other aircraft, but I tend to not line up with the runway as well as I used to. And it might also be because these runways are narrower in these smaller airfields. And the tricky thing about the DC-3 is the wheels are so low, I always expect it to hit the ground later than I actually do. So I've taxied in the meantime, and we're about to take off in the same direction that we were just landing in. So on the second leg of the flight, we're going to be mostly following this river and the road. This river snaking around our course is called the River Tana. Tana? Not sure how to pronounce that. And the road is the Bura Hola Road. And this flight is interesting because the airspace to the right and to the left of the river, it's restricted airspace, so we kind of have a narrow avenue of airspace within which we could fly. And I was looking for the airport there and eventually found it. It's an interesting airfield. I'm not sure what it's made out of, but it's not like a typical airfield that I land on. Kind of looks like gravel, but I'm not sure that they make airfields out of that. So here we're taking off again, and our next destination is going to be the airport in Lamu. The ID for that is Hotel Kilo Lima Uniform. For some reason, sometimes when I take off, it resets my initial autopilot settings. I'm not sure why it does that, but it's kind of a dangerous situation because I'll hit the autopilot and then not realize that my altitude went from 3,500 to 700. Or the vertical speed gets set to 0 and it's not actually climbing. So that's something to keep in mind in this aircraft. So here we are coming up on this river again, which we'll be following. And we'll stay to the right of the river and to the left of the road. I am using my E6B calculator to correct for wind. And as we're approaching Lamu, the countryside changes, which I thought was pretty cool. Instead of kind of bushes and trees and grasslands, we come up on some farms, which are closer to the city. I'm just showing that we're doing a very, very shallow descent as we're approaching the airport. So here we are, and the airport's off in that distance, kind of right around where I'm pointing with my cursor. And I know this because with the DC-3 World Rally, you get a set of kind of directions and hints as you complete your flight. And one of them is a screenshot of where the airport is going to be from this vantage point. So I'm actually, you can kind of see the outline of a runway in the distance. It's going to be along the coast. Coming up on final approach here, the flight description said to that the person that flew this flight, John, it was necessary for him to buzz Lamu during approach to alert the ferry boat captain that passengers and crew required transportation. So I was thinking of doing this, but then I couldn't find the town of Lamu on the terrain. Maybe I missed it, maybe it's not modeled. So I just decided to land without buzzing the town. And another reason why pilots have checklists, I didn't realize until quite late in the approach that my gear was up. I'm glad I checked, otherwise I would have had a crash. So I'm just going to complete this landing, and I'll stop the narration right here. Enjoy the rest of the flight. There's a few minutes left here, and I hope to see you guys soon for the next video. Bye.